us down. It can bring back great memories. It can bring back some sad and painful memories. Nearly all parts of our lives, music is present. Music has effects on us emotionally, physically, spiritually. Music deeply affects our being. Now, none of what I've just said surprises you. Each of us could easily bear testimony on how music has affected our lives. I have songs and musicians that bring back memories of my childhood. The Hermits, Elvis, the Beatles, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Steppenwolf's Born to Be Wild was a theme song for me. I have memories of hearing my parents' favorite artists. Eddie Arnold. Oh, I hated Eddie. But I had to listen to him and bang. I also associate some music with times of grief in my life. Then there's the music that means so much to my faith. How great thou art. Great is thy faithfulness. Amazing grace. When I was at Asbury College, a United Methodist school, we used to sing Amazing Love. How can it be that thou, my God, shouldst die for me? Christmas music. What child is this? Joy to the world. Away in a manger, silent night. Easter music. Christ the Lord is risen today because he lives. What would those holy days be like without music? What sacred music makes up the soundtrack of your life? For some of us, there's a long list. For those of us who grew up in the church, organ, piano music, choirs, bells. For our younger generation, they're more in tune with praise songs, guitars, drums. For some of us, the list will be shorter. We're still working on our sacred soundtrack. Either way, I believe it serves the church well to be intentional about why we sing, why we play, why we make music as the people of God. It cannot be because if we feel nostalgic about it, or it's simply something that we do. I think it's important to know why we do it, because we really must admit that it is a little strange the way we do music in the church as compared to other places. My friend, what other places in the world do you gather, not just to hear someone sing or play like at a concert, but where you are asked to sing? We ask you to sing the praises, the hymns. Prayer and praise. First 15 minutes, we ask people to sing. Why? Why don't we just have a service of talking, of silence? Of reading? Why do we make, as the scripture says in the King James Version, make a joyful noise to the Lord? Our scripture that Joe read for us, I think, gives us a little insight. Almost all the Psalms were actually meant to be sung. It was the ancient Hebrew, and then became, for a while, the Christian hymnal. The word psalm means song or poem to be used in worship. Psalm 100 implores the people of God to come before him with praise and thanksgiving. Verse 2, worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. In our joyful music, you and I are celebrating the story of our God. Psalm 100 celebrates God's faithfulness, God's steadfast love through the ups and downs, generation after generation after generation. It is often through music that you and I get to know God's story. We hear and learn about the faith that we profess. It's not just an expression of joy, but our testimony about who God is, what God has done, and what God will do. Music often makes things a little easier to remember and understand. You know, if you were to be asked to explain what it means to have faith in Jesus Christ, few of you, I'm guessing, would quote a hymn. Like Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. The Apostle Paul wrote in Colossians chapter 3, verse 16, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom, as you sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts. The great songs of the faith were, for the most part, written by believers who knew God and wanted to know God more passionately, more intimately. They wanted to give praise to God by remembering who God is, what God has done, what God will do. We repeat that testimony when we sing. Our songs and our singing are about God. Music is another way that God's activity, and God's word is given witness. Ultimately, music is a profound and a powerful expression of faith and worship. It is a means by which we as individuals or as a community can worship God in expressive and dynamic ways with feeling. We ought to have feeling when we sing. Victor Hugo once said, music expresses that which cannot be put into words and cannot remain silent. My friend, we can worship God with music to express what is our inexpressible gratitude to God. Thankful, as the psalmist said, that we are loved, that we are God's, that we are the sheep of God's pasture. We sing because we're happy. We sing because we're free. For God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So when we come together today for Music Appreciation Sunday, we give thanks to God for the music that we hear and sing. When we come together, we come not to listen to a performance. We come not to perform for people in the pew. Instead, the music that we sing, that we play, that we hear, is all for the glory of God. May we all be open to God's Spirit as we enter God's gates with thanksgiving in our hearts, as we enter God's courts with praise on our lips. For the Lord is good. God's steadfast love endures forever, and God's faithfulness to all generations.